How does an entire nation wake up and decide to fight for its freedom? Well, sometimes it doesn't start with a huge battle or a grand declaration. Sometimes it starts with one person, a single stubborn voice from a place nobody's ever heard of. Today, we're talking about Champaran and how a simple farming dispute became the first real test for India's independence movement.
And it all kicks off because of this man, Rajkumar Shukla. Now, he was a sharecropper from Champaran. Couldn't read or write, but he was absolutely determined. He had a problem, a serious one, and he was about to kickstart a chain of events that would change India forever.
So, what was driving this guy? What was so bad that it pushed him to seek out a figure like Gandhi? To get it, you have to understand the daily injustice he and thousands of other farmers were forced to live with. The setup was pretty simple and just brutal. You had these poor tenant farmers on one side and the powerful British landlords on the other. The deal was farmers had to plant 15% of their land with indigo and just hand over the entire crop as rent. But then a funny thing happened. Germany invented synthetic indigo. Suddenly, the plant was worthless. So, did the landlords let the farmers off the hook? Nope. They found a new way to squeeze them, demanding huge payments to release them from an agreement that was now useless. It was a system running on pure fear and greed.
Rajkumar Shukla knew they needed a champion, and he decided that champion was Mahatma Gandhi. But getting Gandhi's attention wasn't exactly easy. Shukla followed him from a huge political conference in Lucknow to Kanpur, then all the way to his ashram. For weeks, he just waited. He never left his side. Finally, in Calcutta, Gandhi, who was just so impressed by this guy's sheer persistence, said, "Okay, let's go to Champaran."
So, Gandhi arrives, but he doesn't start giving speeches or calling for protests right away. That wasn't his style. His approach was, it was much more careful. He was there to get the facts. See, Gandhi knew that to fight a powerful system, a passionate story wasn't enough. He needed cold, hard, undeniable facts. So his very first move was to sit down with local lawyers and just soak up every piece of information he could find before he did anything else. And this moment right here tells you everything about Gandhi. Before he even went after the British, he turned to the Indian lawyers who were supposedly helping and called them out for charging these poor farmers massive fees. He basically told them it was shameful to be profiting from the misery of their own people. All right, so with his principles clear, he goes to the British establishment. And what happens? The door gets slammed in his face. The Landlords Association calls him an outsider and refuses to talk. The British commissioner literally tries to bully him, telling him to get out of town. But Gandhi, he wasn't scared. He just calmly continued on his way to Motihari, the capital of Champaran. This is where things really escalate. The officials see that bullying isn't working, so they decide to get tough and force him out. And this confrontation, it becomes the single most important moment of the entire movement. Picture this. Gandhi is on his way to visit a peasant who had been abused by the landlords. Suddenly, a police messenger tracks him down and hands him an official, government-stamped notice. And the message was crystal clear. It ordered him to get out of Champaran at once. This was it. The British had drawn a line in the sand. So what does Gandhi do? He takes the notice and he calmly signs the receipt, just acknowledging that, yep, he got the order. But then, on that same piece of paper, he wrote his own response. A few quiet, simple words that were about to start a revolution. 4 words that would echo across the entire country. I shall disobey this order. This was it. This was the moment that large-scale civil disobedience was born in India. A peaceful but incredibly powerful refusal to follow an unjust law. The news spread like wildfire. The next morning, thousands of peasants, the same people who had lived their whole lives terrified of the British, they swarmed the courthouse. They weren't there to be violent. They were just there to support the man who had shown them courage. The government was completely stunned. They were powerless. They had to drop the case. And right there, Gandhi declared, the Battle of Champaran is won. And make no mistake, this was a massive deal. For the first time in modern Indian history, civil disobedience had worked. A moral argument backed by the people had actually forced the colonial government to back down. But winning in court was really just the opening act. The real work of actually tearing down that corrupt system was just getting started. The fight was about to move from the courtroom to the negotiating table. So an official investigation was launched. And get this lineup. On one side, you have the landlords and the government officials. And on the other side, just
Gandhi. One man representing thousands of peasants. But he came armed with a mountain of evidence, and the landlords knew the game was up.
The commission agreed the landlords had to refund the money they illegally taken. Everyone expected Gandhi to demand every single penny back. Instead, he asked for just 50%. The landlords, trying to call his bluff, offered only 25%. And to everyone's absolute shock, Gandhi agreed. Why on earth would he accept just a quarter?
Because it was never about the money. This is where you see the genius of his strategy. Gandhi explained that the amount didn't matter. What mattered was the principle. For the first time ever, the landlords were being forced to give something back. They were surrendering not just their money, but their power, their pride, their prestige. They were no longer untouchable gods.
The whole Champaran episode was a huge turning point, not just for Gandhi, but for all of India. But the real freedom he wanted for these people went way beyond contracts and refund checks. Gandhi saw that the economic problems were really just a symptom of something much deeper. The community itself had been broken down. Winning a legal fight was one thing, but it wasn't true liberation.
So he stayed in Champaran for months. He called in volunteers from all over the country. Even his wife and son came to help. They started 6 schools in the villages. They taught people basic sanitation and personal hygiene. They were literally working to rebuild the community from the ground up. And this one moment captures his ultimate lesson perfectly. One of his followers suggested they get help from a friendly Englishman, and Gandhi flat out refused. He insisted that they had to win this fight on their own. The lesson was self-reliance. He was teaching the people of Champaran, and by extension all of India, that true freedom could only come from their own strength and their own courage. You know, when you trace it all back, from a single farmer's stubborn plea all the way to a nation's first big victory against a colonial power, it really makes you think. It leaves you with this one big question to ponder. When does the courage of just one person become the freedom of a nation?